All right, so we're diving into one of the most fascinating rivalries in hip-hop. Kendrick Lamar versus Drake. You get these two titans at the top of their game, but, there's always been this tension simmering
Yeah.
beneath the surface.
It's not just about like who has the better flow or the bigger hits, it's about two completely different visions of what hip hop can even be.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so interesting. We're going to unpack how this whole rivalry began, explore the key moments, the ones that had everybody talking,
Yeah.
and get into what it all means for hip-hop culture.
We'll see how it goes way beyond just diss tracks, touching on issues of like authenticity, commercial success,
Right.
and the whole evolving definition of what real hip hop even means.
Okay, so to really understand this, we need to rewind back to 2013. Kendrick drops a verse on Big Sean's track Control, and it basically set the hip-hop world on fire.
Yeah.
He called out a whole roster of rappers, including Drake, and basically declared himself the king of New York.
That was like a seismic moment. For a West Coast artist to claim the crown of New York, I mean, that's a direct challenge to the established hierarchy in hip-hop.
Totally.
And it wasn't just about geographic dominance. It was about Kendrick staking his claim as, like, the most skilled, the most innovative, the one pushing the boundaries of the genre.
He was making a statement.
Exactly.
So here's Kendrick throwing down this massive gauntlet. What was Drake's reaction to all of this?
His initial response was surprisingly subtle. Instead of firing back with, a diss track of his own, he kind of wove these clever digs into his own songs. You had to really listen closely to catch them.
So some might say he was playing it safe, avoiding a direct confrontation. But was it really playing it safe? Or was there, a deeper strategy at play?
That's the million-dollar question, It could have been a calculated move. Maybe he was sizing up his opponent, waiting for the right moment to strike back, or perhaps a mix of both, a little bit of caution and a little bit of strategic planning.
Yeah, either way, that tension was definitely building. And things really came to a head a few years later when Kendrick releases The Heart Part 4. No more subtlety here. He goes straight for the jugular, directly questioning Drake's authenticity as an artist.
Yeah, this wasn't just about personal beef anymore. This was about artistic philosophy. Kendrick was challenging the very idea of what it means to be real in hip-hop. He seemed to be implying that Drake's willingness to, experiment with pop sounds and embrace commercial success somehow compromised his artistic integrity.
It's like he was questioning Drake's whole approach.
Yeah.
Right? And there's that infamous line, "You know what time it is. Ante up. This is in forever." It felt like a direct threat, like Kendrick was saying, step up your game or step aside.
That line was a game changer. It pushed their rivalry into a whole new territory. Suddenly, it wasn't just about who had the better rhymes. It was about who was more committed to their craft, who was truly pushing the boundaries of hip-hop.
So Kendrick puts Drake in a corner, forcing him to respond.
Right.
What does Drake do?
He releases Summer 16, and let me tell you, it was explosive. He crowns himself the greatest rapper alive and has this line, "Looking for revenge all Summer 16." That was Drake throwing the gauntlet right back at Kendrick.
Okay, so we had this back and forth, this escalation of tension. But Summer 16 felt different to me. It had this aggressive confidence, but I also detected this hint of defensiveness.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe he was, trying a little too hard to prove a point.
That's a fascinating observation, and that's where it gets really interesting. Was Drake truly confident in his response, or was he feeling the pressure of Kendrick's challenge? This ambiguity adds a whole new layer to the rivalry.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing this psychological game unfold in their music. And that brings us to, one of the most significant moments in this whole saga. Kendrick's Humbly.
Humbly became a global phenomenon, not just a diss track. It dominated the charts. The video was everywhere. And the message resonated with audiences far beyond the world of hip-hop.
Okay, but let's get past the hype and look at the song itself. What was Kendrick really saying with Humble? Was it just another jab at Drake, or was there something deeper going on?
Humble AE was layered with meaning. On the surface, it was this bold declaration of Kendrick's dominance. But beneath that, there was this deeper reflection on ego, success, and the pressure to stay grounded in the face of fame.
Right, and that's where the connection to the rivalry gets really interesting. Humble can be interpreted as Kendrick directly addressing the whole debate about commercial success versus artistic integrity. It's like he's saying, I can be both critically acclaimed and commercially successful without compromising my vision.
Exactly. And that challenges the very narrative that Drake seemed to represent. The idea that commercial success somehow equates to artistic compromise with
Right.
Humble. Kendrick was pushing back against that notion.
And this is where things get really fascinating to me. It feels like their rivalry has evolved into something bigger than just two artists vying for the top spot.
Hmm.
It's become this symbolic battleground for different philosophies within hip-hop.
Absolutely. And it raises the question, did their competition, this push and pull between them, actually elevate both of their artistry? Did it force them to dig deeper, to experiment more, to become even better versions of themselves?
That's the question we'll try to answer as we continue this deep dive.
Yeah.
We'll explore the lasting impact of this rivalry and see how it's shaped not only Kendrick and Drake's careers, but also the landscape of hip-hop itself.
Yeah.
So we're back and, we're digging deeper into this epic rivalry between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Last time we went through kind of the early stages of their beef, those explosive diss tracks, and how really their clashing visions of what hip-hop should be just fueled the whole fire.
Yeah, and as we move forward, it's important to see how their rivalry hasn't just stayed contained between the two of them.
Right.
It's actually rippled outwards.
Yeah.
Impacting the entire hip-hop landscape.
That's true. Think about it. Kendrick and Drake, they're like these two gravitational forces pulling other artists into their orbit. Some have explicitly taken sides. Others more subtly align with one or the other's style.
Yeah, it's almost like they've created this spectrum within hip-hop, with artists positioning themselves along it. You
Yeah.
can see it in the music they make, the messages they promote, even the way they present themselves.
Okay, I'm curious about this spectrum idea. Can we break it down a little bit?
Yeah.
Who are some of the artists that you would say fall more on the Kendrick side of things?
Think about someone like J. Cole, known for his introspective lyrics and socially conscious themes.
Yeah.
Or Vince Staples, who delivers this raw, unflinching commentary on life and his music. They might not be directly involved in the beef, but their artistry definitely echoes, Kendrick's values, his commitment to pushing boundaries.
Right. It's that emphasis on lyrical complexity, thought-provoking messages, and maybe a less polished, more raw sound.
Exactly.
What about on the other end of the spectrum? Who are some of the artists that align more with Drake's style?
You've got artists like Future, who's really mastered that melodic, atmospheric trap sound. Or Post Malone, blending hip-hop with rock and pop sensibilities. And even Travis Scott, pushing the boundaries of production and creating these immersive experiences.
That's true. It's interesting. They all kind of embrace the melodic aspects of hip-hop,
Yeah.
often incorporating elements of other genres.
Yeah.
And really prioritize a sound that's undeniably catchy and commercially appealing.
Right.
So this rivalry has essentially helped to expand the definition of what hip-hop can be,
Absolutely.
showing that there are multiple paths to success.
Yeah, it's encouraged diversity and experimentation within the genre, giving artists the freedom to find their own lane. But even with this expanded definition of hip-hop, this rivalry hasn't been without its downsides.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. There's always that risk when competition gets heated. Things can turn toxic, especially online.
Yeah.
Fans get caught up in the drama, forgetting that these are real people with real emotions.
It's easy to get swept up in the back and forth, the diss tracks, the social media feuds. But it's important to remember that, at its heart, hip-hop is a culture built on community, on shared experiences.
And that's something that can get lost in the heat of the moment.
Totally.
So where does this leave Kendrick and Drake's relationship today? Have they reached some sort of truce?
That's a question everybody wants answered, right? There hasn't been any direct engagement in their music for a while now.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet.
Maybe they've found a way to coexist, to respect each other's space within the industry.
Maybe the competition has become more internalized,
Yeah.
pushing them both to constantly strive for greatness, even without needing to call each other out directly.
Exactly. The legacy of their rivalry might be that it ultimately pushed both of them to new creative heights,
Yeah.
refining their craft and expanding the possibilities of what hip-hop can achieve.
This has been such an insightful look into this rivalry.
Yeah.
As we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, is there one key takeaway you want our listeners to really ponder?
The Kendrick and Drake rivalry, I think it's a microcosm of the larger evolution of hip-hop. It's about that constant tension between tradition and innovation,
Yeah.
between mainstream appeal and underground authenticity. And ultimately, it's about pushing the boundaries of what this genre can be.
And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore what the future holds for hip-hop, what lessons can be learned from this legendary rivalry, and how might it influence the next generation of artists. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, so, we journeyed through the origins of this epic rivalry, explored those explosive diss tracks, the subtle digs. We even saw how Kendrick and Drake's, different approaches to hip-hop, they've influenced an entire generation of artists.
Yeah. Now, in this final part, I think we can shift our focus from the past and present to the future.
Right.
What can we learn from this rivalry?
Exactly.
What lasting impact will it have on the evolution of hip-hop?
It feels like their story is about so much more than, just two artists competing for the top spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's become this fascinating case study in how creative tension can actually shape an entire genre.
For sure. One of the most important takeaways, for me at least, is that there's no single blueprint for success in hip-hop.
Okay.
Kendrick and Drake, they embody two very different paths, both leading to incredible achievements.
Right. So it's not about choosing sides or saying one approach is superior to the other.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there's room for, diverse voices and styles, each with its own strengths and challenges.
Exactly. And I think that's a really powerful message for any aspiring artist out there.
So, well,
You don't have to fit into a predefined mold. You can draw inspiration from multiple sources, experiment with sounds, blend genres, and still forge your own unique path.
yeah, it's about embracing your individuality,
Mhm.
pushing your own artistic boundaries, finding what truly resonates with you.
Total.
Another key lesson here, and tell me if you agree with this, is the power of competition.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not advocating for, all-out musical warfare, but a healthy sense of rivalry can be an incredible motivator.
Oh, for sure. It's like that old saying, iron sharpens iron,
Mhm.
right? When you see your peers pushing the boundaries, taking risks, achieving greatness, it can ignite your own creative fire.
Yeah, and we've seen that with Kendrick and Drake. Their back and forth, even if sometimes contentious, it seems to have fueled their innovation.
Yeah.
It's pushed them to constantly refine their craft, explore new sonic territories, and ultimately just elevate their artistry.
Totally.
But there's a fine line, right? Because competition can easily turn toxic if it becomes about ego, tearing others down,
Mm-hmm.
or prioritizing winning over artistic integrity.
Absolutely. It's crucial to remember that hip-hop at its core is about community, shared experiences, and lifting each other up.
For sure.
It's about celebrating the culture, not tearing it down.
So how do we navigate that tension then? How do we foster a sense of healthy competition that encourages, growth and innovation while preserving that spirit of collaboration and respect?
That's a great question. I think it starts with recognizing the value of diverse perspectives.
Okay.
Appreciating that, different artists will have different approaches, different styles, different messages.
Mm-hmm.
There's room for everyone at the table.
Right. And maybe it's about shifting the focus from who's winning
Yeah.
to how the music itself is pushing boundaries, sparking conversations, and inspiring the next generation.
Precisely. It's about prioritizing, the artistry, the craft, the message.
Yeah.
Over the hype and the drama.
Exactly.
Because ultimately the music, that's what connects us, inspires us, and transcends those individual rivalries.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Kendrick and Drake saga, what's the one thing you hope listeners will take away from, this whole exploration?
I hope they see it as a testament to the dynamism of hip-hop, its constant evolution and its ability to adapt and thrive while reflecting the complexities of our world.
I love that. And I hope it inspires them to continue exploring, the vast and diverse landscape of this genre, discovering new artists, new sounds, and new perspectives that keep the culture, vibrant and evolving.
Well said. The story of Kendrick and Drake is just one chapter in this ongoing saga of hip-hop.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Who knows what new rivalries, creative tensions, and groundbreaking sounds will emerge in the years to come.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Hip-hop is this living, breathing art form, constantly pushing boundaries, redefining itself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep those headphones on, keep exploring, and keep the music alive.